today we are going to talk and learn about the nursing management of second stage of labor. Second stage of labor, you must have learned, it is one of the very crucial period of childbirth. Why I say this? Because this is the time the baby is to be born, or the actual process of delivery takes place during the second stage of labor. So let us review what is normal labor. So normal labor are the series of events that take place in the genital organs in an effort to expel the viable products of conception out of the womb through the vagina into the outer world is called as labor. We all understand this means dysfunctional or abnormal. So the normal labor is also called as eutosia. Now let us come to the second stage of labor. What do we understand by the second stage of labor? Second stage of labor is that of expulsion of the fetus. So it begins when the cervix is fully dilated and the woman feels the urge to expel the fetus out. It is completed when the baby is born. So it is an involuntary, it is an expulsive urge by the women. No one on the earth can stop this. Okay, so the mothers have a great urge to push the baby out. That is what is the second stage of labor. Now its average duration is 2 hours in primigravida. Primigravida is the women who are delivering their baby for the first time or who are pregnant for the first time. Now multipara on the contrary are the ones who have delivered more than one babies, and in them the second stage of labor or the duration is just 30 minutes. Now the second stage of labor happens in 2 phases, that is propulsive and expulsive. So what is the clinical course? That means what all events or what all changes take place during the second stage of labor. Now pain is the most important feature of second stage of labor. Now this pain during the second stage of labor is unbearable, very painful, and we also call them as bearing down pains. So these are the efforts, bearing down efforts which cause expulsive pain. And the pain is so painful that mothers may howl, they may shout, they may hold your hand or hold the bed. Membrane status. Now the membranes most likely are ruptured by this time. If not, then we do artificial rupture of membrane. Now descent of fetus, this means that during the course of first stage of labor, the fetus gets pushed down, it comes down, it keeps moving down towards the lower pole of the uterus. So this is called as the descent of the fetus. Now vaginal signs, we will see there is widening of the vaginal introitus, the rectum may be widely open, there can be pressure seen at the rectum. Now maternal signs, the mother will be very in distress, she may be shouting, she may be sweating, she may get exhausted. And fetal effect, with all these symptoms or with features, we will see the fetus or the fetal head will be visible at the vulva. So what is the principles of mechanism of labor? Now there is term called as mechanism of normal labor. Now during the second stage of labor, there are some series of movement take place in order to expel the fetus from the birth canal. And there are some principles which follow during the mechanism of labor. Descent takes place throughout labor. That means descent is a continuous process. It starts with the first stage of labor and it ends with the completion of second stage of labor. Now whichever part leads and first meets the resistance of the pelvic floor will rotate forward until it comes under the symphysis pubis. So whatever emerges from the pelvis will pivot around the pubic bone. Now these are the steps of the mechanism of labor. We also call them the different movements which take place during the mechanism of labor. The subsequent slide, I'm going to show you the pictures which will make these things clear. And I'm sure in the theory and practical modules you must have come across these steps, or these are the movements which I'm going to talk. Now, engagement. Engagement is the head gets fixed. In simple language, it does not recede back, it does not go back. Descent, as I told you earlier also, the fetal head goes on going down, 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 so that it gets engaged into the pelvic canal. Now, flexion. The fetus adopts an attitude of complete flexion during the second stage of labor. Now, internal rotation, as we have seen in the principles, the occiput is the leading point or leading during the mechanism of labor in the anterior positions. So it meets the resistance of the pelvic floor and it rotates 1/8 of a circle. Now, crowning. What is crowning? Crowning is that during the contraction, the fetal head goes on moving down, 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 and then a time comes. So during crowning, the head, even the contraction is over, it does not recede back. That means it does not go up. It stays stuck in the pelvic canal. So next step is extension. So at this stage, during crowning, we know we get a signal now the head is going to be born. So head is born by extension. Now the next movement is restitution. Restitution takes place outside the perineum, that means outside the pelvic canal. So during restitution, the head recedes back or it rotates in the same place where it was before the internal rotation has taken place. So the head goes back to the facing to the iliopectineal eminence. Then is the external rotation of the head. Now during the external rotation, the head rotates in such a way that the fetus lies lateral to the maternal tissues or maternal perineum. So followed by this is the expulsion of the trunk. So the baby is born in a lateral position. Now these are the diagrams to make you understand that engagement and descent. Now the head enters into the pelvic canal with the suboccipitofrontal diameter, which is 10 centimeter, and with increased flexion it becomes a suboccipitobregmatic diameter, and the posterior fontanelle, like this is the right occipito anterior position. So the posterior fontanelle faces the right iliopectineal eminence. Now the next movement, during flexion, the suboccipitofrontal diameter with the increased flexion becomes the suboccipitobregmatic diameter. So the head engages in the suboccipitobregmatic diameter, which is 9.5 centimeter. Now internal rotation. As we can see, the occiput was pointing on the flexion. If you see, the occiput is pointing to the right iliopectineal eminence. Now with the internal rotation, it rotates and moves towards the left side, and the occiput is facing the symphysis pubis, and the posterior fontanelle lies in the anterior-posterior diameter of the pelvic cavity. The next step is extension. So the head is born by extension. Now the restitution, as I told you earlier also, that once the head is born, now this movement of restitution takes place outside the pelvic cavity. So the head rotates back the right thigh of the mother and it goes back to the right iliopectineal eminence, and the posterior fontanelle also faces the right iliopectineal eminence. Now there is external rotation of the head and expulsion of the trunk. Okay, now let us see what is the management during the second stage of labor. Now during the management also we follow some principles. So in the management of second stage of labor, the two most important principles we follow to assist in the natural expulsion of the fetus slowly and steadily. That means that the midwife or the obstetrician only helps the mother to expel the fetus out in a natural manner, slowly and steadily. We don't have to tell the mother you push, and until the cervix is fully dilated, we do not ask the mother to push the fetus out. And to prevent perineal injuries. Perineal injuries, I mean perineal tear or extension of the episiotomy. So these are the principles or objectives during the second stage management. Okay, so what are the general measures to be followed? The woman preferably should be on bed, especially when the membranes are ruptured. We don't allow the woman to walk. But if everything is okay, the membranes are intact, and the labor room is not very busy like the tertiary care hospitals or the district hospital where there are so many deliveries taking place. If you make the mother to walk, she may be hit by a trolley, she may be hit by a busy doctor or a nurse. So one has to see the situation. So there is no hard and fast rule that she should be on bed. But yes, if the membranes are ruptured, she should preferably lie in the bed only. Now, constant supervision. I mean that from time to time, the midwife should go to the mother and keep a watch on the uterine contraction, the status of fetus, assess her vital signs, and guide the mother as and when needed. Then to administer analgesics. Now, some mothers may not be able to bear the labor pains. For them, it may be, and especially the primies, it may be really a very, very challenging task. So these women may be administered injection Phenargen or Fortwin. So depending on the situation, there is no hard and fast rule that everybody should be given. Then vaginal examination. Now, vaginal examination, I mean every woman, in order to assess the status of or progress of labor, the midwife or the obstetrician has to do a PV examination which is not repeated before 4 hours. So the PV examination, whoever is doing, is not to be repeated before 4 hours because too many or too frequent PV examinations can cause ascending infections. So one has to justify the reason, and it is not must also that after 4 hours it has to be done if the need arises. So in PV examination, the status of membrane, the dilatation of cervix, the effacement of cervix, the station of the fetal head, and the pelvic capacity is assessed. Now, preparation for delivery. Preparation of delivery, it is very important that whichever hospital, whichever health facility the woman admitted, please remember the moment she is admitted, even before she is shifted to the delivery room, the midwife has to check that delivery room is completely ready in relation to the delivery trolley, in relation to the cleanliness of the labor room, in relation to the equipment, supplies, emergency drugs, baby's resuscitation trolley, equipment required for baby resuscitation. All that has to be seen so that we do not face any difficulty once the delivery starts. And according to UNICEF, every delivery is to be considered as obstetrical emergency. So we have to prepare ourselves for the emergency. Even in addition to that, every nurse has to know that which is the time the mother should be shifted to the delivery room and how she should be shifted. Ideally, it is said that in primipara mothers, if the 3 to 5 centimeter of fetal head is seen in vertex presentation, and that is pretty good to shift the mother. And in multis, even simple or small hairline is visible, and sometimes maybe a PV examination is done and we know cervix is fully dilated, so one can shift. But it is not must that every time we will do a PV to decide whether she should be shifted or not shifted. So these are the criteria for deciding to shift the mother to the delivery room. Now, how are we going to shift? Ideally, the mother should be shifted on the trolley. In some hospitals, they have the practice to make the mother to walk from the first stage room to the delivery room. It is a wrong practice. Even on the wheelchair is a wrong practice, because so ideally it should be the trolley, the mother should be shifted. Now, positioning. There are different positions a mother can adopt. Dorsal recumbent, it can be lateral, it can be lithotomy. But in the real situation or in the practical situation, what we come across, it is mostly lithotomy. Maybe we are so accustomed that we are not comfortable to try other positions, because lithotomy is very comfortable for the doctor and the midwife. So the obstetrician and the midwife, they scrub up, they put on sterile gown, mask, gloves, cleaning of the genitalia, the thighs of the mother, a sterile sheet is put so that the area becomes sterile, leggings, all that is done. Now in order to see that there is no infection during the delivery process, WHO recommends 6 cleans to be followed, and they are clean hands, clean perineum, clean delivery surface, clean cutting surface, clean cutting, and ligatoring the umbilical cord. Now, whether delivery is in the hospital or home delivery, we have to see that these 6 cleans are being followed. Though I know these days home deliveries have become very few, but sometimes we come across home deliveries. Ideally, all the mothers should come to the hospital, but we may come across some home deliveries. So it is pertinent to train the TPA to follow these 6 cleans. And sometimes the catheterization may be required if the bladder is full, because a full bladder will delay the descent of the fetal head. Now, conduction of delivery. Basically, the process of delivery takes place in 3 phases: delivery of the head, delivery of the shoulders, and the delivery of the trunk, as you can see in the diagram also. Now, it is very important to prevent the perineal lacerations or injuries during delivery. So for this, what is required? More attention should be paid to the controlled delivery of the head. Now, by this I mean the head is the larger portion of the body. One has to see to it that the sufficient or timely episiotomy should be given to all the primees, and if the baby is big size, then also episiotomy is to be done, and proper support of the perineum to be given in order to avoid extension of the episiotomies or tears, perineal tears. Now, delivery by early extension is to be avoided. Spontaneous forcible delivery of the head to be avoided. Delivering the head in between the contraction to be avoided. So head has to be born during contraction. Then to perform timely episiotomy. Crowning has taken place, because during crowning the head does not recede back. That is the time to give episiotomy. Once the crowning takes place, it doesn't serve the purpose, because head is born by extension. The next step is head is born by extension. So it should be at the time of crowning. Then to take care during delivery of the shoulders, because the bisacromial diameters, they are bigger and there may be difficulty to deliver the shoulders. Now this is just to show the episiotomy, that there are 2 types of episiotomy. There are 3 basically, but 2 are the most common. Out of that, the mediolateral is more common, and out of that also right mediolateral episiotomy is more given. The simple reason is that majority of the people are right-handed, or right hand is the dominant hand in most of the people. Okay, now talking about the nursing care of the woman. It is written patient, but we don't call anymore the woman in labor as patient, we call them as women. The reason for this, that labor or pregnancy is a physiological process. Why should we call them patient? They are all women. Pregnant women, laboring women. Under this, we never leave the woman alone once she has been transferred to the delivery room. In the delivery room, most of the time, the woman will be lying in a lithotomy position. And during the pains, she may be howling, screaming, and she may fall. So it is not advisable to leave the mother alone the moment she is shifted to the delivery room. Now at this point of time, some of the hospitals, they have the practice to inform the pediatrician. So the pediatrician must be informed so that the pediatrician is present for the delivery. Then encourage the woman to rest between the contractions and to push with contraction. Sometimes the woman may ask for water, so we can give the water to the woman, ask her to take deep breaths once the contraction is over, and she should push only during contraction. So position the woman's leg in the stirrups for the lithotomy position and prepare the perineum, monitor the woman's blood pressure, FHR every 5 minutes, and after each contraction. Even in the delivery room, the woman's vitals must be monitored and the fetal heart sound also should be monitored. Now these are the different positions, though they are not being followed, because I think what I know the reason is that all the health workers are used to lithotomy position because that is being followed in most of the hospitals. We don't try to experiment new positions which are comfortable for the mother. So these are different positions which can be used: semi-sitting, sitting position, sitting on toilet, squatting, side lying position, walking, standing. Actually, these are not basically during second stage, it can be during first stage, but during the second stage it can be dorsal recumbent, lateral and lithotomy. This is the lithotomy position which we commonly advise the mother. Complications which can arise, tell you that as soon as the baby is born, the second stage of labor or the delivery is over, we wait for the placental separation. So that means now, and the baby is taken, if the pediatrician is there or the midwife, the baby is taken to the resuscitation trolley and observed there if any problem arises, which I am going to talk in the next session about the immediate management of the newborn. So there are some complications which may arise during the second stage of labor. Slow progress of labor, the baby is in the unusual position like transverse, occipito-posterior position, concern about baby's condition, postpartum hemorrhage. Postpartum hemorrhage is only because of the mishandling of labor, retained placenta, cord prolapse, cord compression, and thank you.